Hello everybody, and today I'm going to be showing you guys Leela versus Leela once again, but in this game, instead of being on depth 0, I am on depth 100, so Leela can only calculate up to around 100 positions, which is a very small amount, and you can see that it's not exactly 100, it doesn't really matter, it's around 100, it's not 100,000, there's a big difference between those two numbers. So, let's see what approach Leela decides to go for. So, okay, b3, so very interesting approach here. Bishop to b5 check apparently is the best move. I don't know why bishop b5 check is better. Okay, so we get a trade of light square bishops, and Leela is just going to pressure down in the center of the board with a dark square bishop on the diagonal, and basically say that he has complete control over the diagonal, knight c6, queen c6, and pawn to d3. And Leela's structure, also white structure, is very, very solid. It's very difficult to sort of break through. But black is still better, according to Leela. Now maybe c4 is an idea. b5 is played, obviously now. You go a4 against that, kind of wanting to get rid of this strong point. We have a6, ab5, and now bishop to e5. Bishop e5 is a pretty interesting move. I don't quite understand it. So let's see. What is the idea of this move? Is the idea to prevent rook b8, maybe? Let's see. Maybe the idea is just to always prevent pawn to e5. I don't know. Say that happens. Okay. Rook f d8. And now rook a7. So white is, in a way, infiltrating, but the main point is just to get complete control over the a file. Now this move is played, I guess, with what idea? I just want to open up the position, I guess. Take. So we get a massive trade, take, and now pawn to d4, which is a losing move because of rook e6, which is not an intuitive move. Take here, and then rook takes e3. Wow, so actually Leela just wins here, or black wins, because of this move came to rook e3 and then sacrificing everything. Wow, very nice. And this endgame is easily winning. Black is up 2 pawns and 1 on both sides of the board, and I don't think we really have to analyze this much deeper. This should be a win, easily. So here, the knight moves away. But yeah, black is just defending, and now this move I think is really nice. And black, slowly but surely, moves his king forward. And he does actually end up giving away this pawn, but you win 1 back. And black just, wins this pawn as well. Black just has better activity, and it's really, white just is really constrained. His position is very constrained, because he has to play only moves in order to survive very quickly. But now, this is a very easy win. Trade happens, and yeah, this endgame is completely winning, and actually the game ends in a win for black. Now, obviously, this was a really nice tactic here, missed actually by white, which is really interesting. So maybe 100 depth isn't enough. Maybe I have to do something more. Bishop f6, bishop f6. Now here you can see the engine here. Bishop f6, d4, rook e6, king f2, rook takes d4 is actually the move recommended, but it actually missed as rook takes e3, which is interesting because here you can see that the engine here, it misses this move. It thinks this rook takes d4 is the best move, but then you have this in between move. But against this move, you don't have this move because you just take it. So this move doesn't work because of this, but this move works. Very nice. So this was like a tactic. But before the tactic, I'm really, really interested in the opening. Because, okay, let's see. So e3 is played. So e3 and not d3. I feel like d3 is also a very reasonable move. c5, b3. So white is obviously playing for pressure on the diagonal. But what I found very interesting is the move bishop to b5 check. So first of all, if here, you can actually just take it right now. And then play knight c3, bishop g7, bishop e2, and the problem for black is that the bishop on c8 is very, very bad. So black wants to trade it off, but then queen e1, probably, I'm expecting, yeah, queen e1 is actually the best move. And the point is, now, bishop f3, yeah, you're giving away the bishop, but, yeah, now actually black is better, apparently. Let's see, what should you have done? Not queen e1. I think queen e1 is a reasonable move still. The top move is knight a4, you have to do this idea now. Now this move, this is too slow, because here black can just play knight d7, and black is fine. The problem is if you go here, now they trade bishops on your terms, and after knight takes b2, apparently e5 actually equalizes. So you have to play quickly. You have to play knight a4, and now obviously knight here apparently doesn't work. Bishop d7, king g7, and you just play d3, and maybe the argument is that black's pieces are really bad, but how does white move forward here? The problem is none of the players can't really do anything. Let's see. Bishop f3, queen f3. If this move, what happens if this move? Well, then you play... Okay, imagine black doesn't do anything. Black is just like, I don't want to do anything. Black is just like super solid. Then you play e4, apparently. But still the structure is very, very solid. So how do you break through this? Let's see. Imagine black plays... What's the most solid move possible? I don't think this is the right move, but I don't really see a move against it. Now, you go knight b2, queen c7, knight c4. Okay, so you prove the position of the knight. But the problem, yeah, black doesn't have anything to do, but really what I'm looking for is how does white get an advantage? So you know knight e2, apparently, and then black doesn't do anything at all. Rook e1. So, but what is the main plan, though? What is, like, the ending point? So the ending point is actually g4. So what I find interesting is this idea of pawn structure. So if you go here, then you go here. You don't have to go there immediately. And the point is, well, black can't really do anything, and you're just gonna go here, and then you bring your rook to the game, and then you play here, and then you go here, or here, or here, whichever one you want. Or maybe even here, if you want to. But I think it's more accurate just to move this pawn here. And if black still doesn't do anything, you can take, and you attack. Queen takes f2, and it's mate. So probably they don't play this move. Maybe they just, knight b6, for example. And in this case, you can probably just take the pawn. But, imagine you can also play for something like this, and now g5, and you're doing great here. I mean, so this is the way you break through. This is the way you break through. The only way you break through, mind you, because there's not really anything else for you to do here. This pawn is defended. Black is very, very solid. The only problem is that if you just improve the position of your knight, improve the position of your rooks, put them in the center, black doesn't really have any center play. If you go here, f5, right? And this is really important move. You go f5. I guess not really that important. I mean, you still could go here, get into this position. But after this move, f5, I think is way more clean. Now your pawn can go to f6, and then there's checkmating ideas. And it's just really annoying, tactically speaking. So I guess this is actually the way to play. Is actually to play the move knight a4, which is really important. Because now, again, knight d7, I take, and then I play d3, and this position is actually really strong. And for the reasons I said before, I have a lot of ideas of a kingside attack, because my opponent doesn't have much of a defense. I mean, take, black doesn't have anything to do. Black has absolutely nothing to do. Black has literally nothing to do here. There's no plan for black. If you go here, f5, or fe5, actually. In this case, fe5. Apparently it's a strong move. Again, there's no check. So I go queen f4, and then the knight just goes back, but then you can take, apparently. Oh, there's a fork. Right. So, yeah, now the queen's just active, and black's king is badly placed. But as I assume, if you go like rook e1, the king can go back, and it's still really strong for white because of e4. And if you go here, there's probably a million tactics. Queen d6 here wins the pawn. So, I think there's, a lot of sort of ideas like e4 is good strategically, but not tactically, because take queen f4. And the knight has hanging. Queen f7, knight to c5 is a nice tactic as well. So yeah, it's just black's king is on g7 can be pretty vulnerable to a lot of tactics. But I really like this actually. So if you go here, knight a4 is the only move. You can see the engine here. Knight e4 is the only move, which is something I will remember for probably the rest of my life, I guess. Means yeah, pretty nice. Knight a4. And, yeah, there's not really anything much to do. Queen a5 just d3, and it's the same ideas. And the bishop on d4 is very bad. Bishop on d4 is really bad. So just d3. But then you have this move, though. Actually, this is pretty annoying, because if you say like this, you lose your knight. But now you go queen e1, so you get into an endgame. Apparently, I don't know why you would want to get into the endgame. Let's see, so h3 I think is a more human-like move. Queen f3, but then maybe you can't go for the same ideas here, Because really what your entire sort of idea banks on is the fact that you have traded the bishops. But you haven't traded the bishops. So what if after here you don't go knight d7, because now trading bishops is very dangerous. Now king's safety is a big concern. But you said you play c4. Now if you take, then you damage your pawn structure. Queen a5 is very strong, and you lose your pawn back. You don't even have to take back. I don't think, yeah, take it back with damage structure. Taking it back is not really the best. The best is to go here. And then if you take it, bishop takes b2 wins material. So, interesting way to play. But you play d3, and then just rook c8, something. I don't know, rook c8 doesn't do much. And now d takes c4, d takes c4, h3. Wait, what? D takes c4. Yeah, okay, h3. Did I oh, I played d4, I didn't see that, okay. D takes c4, h3. And now not even bishop f3, but bishop f3 is also fine. Queen d5 I think is a very nice move. And if I'm being completely honest, rook a d1, queen takes f3, g takes f3, g takes f3. Yeah, I don't see an advantage after rook takes, but after g takes. So g takes f3 apparently is actually better for whites. So, So first of all, if you go here again, actually the knight is just hanging, but if you go here, now you can play rook d7. So maybe you go here first. Then even b takes c4 is now recommended, which is a weird move. Yeah, 98, I don't really see anything here. 98 looks really nice because you're just trading bishops. Bishop g7, king g7, rook d3. Yeah, but you just do nothing. Rook b3 now. Why doesn't this move work? Yeah, just do rook d6 and do nothing. So apparently rook b3 is better for white. I don't really see a way for me to make progress. Maybe knight c5 is possible. Maybe pawn c5. What is pawn c5? That's an ugly move. What about knight takes c5? Oh, there's rook bc8, because if you go here, you trade. And you try to go here, knight b7, rook takes c5. Oh, that's rook's hanging, so you go here, c5. And white's maybe slightly better. I don't really care. But it's an interesting idea. You take with a pawn. In order to do what? If you take with a rook f d8, black's activity is actually, maybe it's just dynamic reasons for it. Obviously you don't want to take. You don't want black to get the d file. Yeah, so you just play bishop d4, and you just say that I have just control over everything, and there's not much you can do. If you go here, I take. And e5 is impossible because you just take. So you don't have any pawn moves. And if you move this pawn, then I can move my knight into b6, and I can take the pawn to c4 with my knight. So probably you have to take, not losing material forever. But, like, what is black gonna do? Really, I think in a position like this, there's really all that. What's white gonna do? Well, the pawn on a7 is hanging. If you move it forward again, then I can go to b6 or something. So, or at some point. So this move is probably the best move. But then you go rook d3 and you just double up, and there's not really much you can do. Knight d5. And now also interesting move here. Knight to b4 is threat. So you go here, blocking the pawn. Now, probably they should go here in order to, not allow that pawn to be attacked. Rook of d1 and black's in a bind. You can't move the knight because you lose this. And also, pawn to e5 is a threat. This one doesn't help because you still go here. Also, c4 is a threat. So you have to move the rook away. Now you just move your king forward. And black is in a complete bind. The problem, though, is, well, how do you win? Knight b6, I think, is a very nice move. So rook b8, knight b6, that's a very nice idea. Just trying to defend for dear life. Bishop d6, rook c8, now e4. So you can see that this kind of structure actually is pretty nice for white. And also, taking with the rook would have, if you go back to this position, take him back with the rook. This move, and you have to give away that file. Because if you go here, I mean, they can equalize a million ways. They can go here. And they just have, I mean, the FL is equalized. But if you take with a pawn, now that's not the case. If you go here, you can take, which I think is a brilliant idea, and you're up a pawn. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, you're up a pawn. But the pawns are really doubled, but there's not really much they can do about it according to the engine, which is really funny. Really funny idea here. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see if I can go back to the old endgame, actually. Let's see if I can find the other endgame. So take Yeah, d takes f3, knight d7. But bishop c3. Now what is that? Let's see. So this one was played. Yeah, then rook d7 I think is nice. Let's see. Take, pawn takes. Here, take. Yeah, but bishop d4, right? Bishop. Yeah, this was the variation. Bishop d4. C takes b3. A takes b3. Yeah, this is the variation. Not a3, but rook a8. Rook d3. Yes, this is the move. This is the variation, right? So here, I mean, I just have complete domination. They cannot move the knight. They have to go here. I move my king forward because there's nothing I can do. And then I go here, and then I go here. And I just have basically just a complete control over everything. The only problem for white is that white has to actually find a way to win. So how do you win here in like perfect conditions? Well, probably, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Maybe it's just like something f5 or something. f5 doesn't make any sense. Let's see, knight a4, pawn takes f4, and then c5. Okay, that's a reasonable option. What if black just like goes here, doesn't do anything? You play c4. And then you play c5. Or you can play knight c5. So, really, one of my weaknesses is that I don't see this idea of knight c5. I mean, it's so hard for me to find out if a position, because some positions, my positions can be better, but I can't make any progress. And some positions I am better, and I can make progress. Like, can I make progress or not is really the main problem. But I think here, it's just a matter of tactics, because his opponent's rooks are really, really trapped, and I can go knight a6 and knight c7, and his rooks, they're ass. They're ass. Like, if he does nothing, knight a6, and his rooks are gone. like I can go here, he has to move the rook away, and I can probably go here, and at least, I'm not really winning an exchange. What am I actually doing? But the point is that I just have freedom. But then I have to learn, like, okay, which structures and which amount of pieces are winning and which amount of pieces that I have are losing. Like, is this opposite color bishop endgame winner? But I assume it's because, first of all, there's same color bishops, which generally probably favors the attacking side because you have opposite color bishops. But also it could benefit the person who doesn't want to draw, because then you can trade them and not allow them. Yeah. But anyways, I think that was an interesting video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.